Why does your brain freeze and blank out in a conversation in the first place? It's called the attentional control theory. Take my friend Sam, for example. Sam had a crush on this girl since freshman year. For 4 whole years, he never said a word to her. He'd see her in the hallway and start loading like a bad Wi Fi connection. Every time he thought today's the day, his brain hit him with the, nah, she's out of your league, bro. Then fast forward to graduation day. This day, he finally took his shot. He walks up to her, heart pounding like a rave in his chest, and somehow it goes well. It went great. They talked about departments, laughing, sharing future plans. Then he hits her with the, you're gorgeous. And she hits him back with, wait, what? Do you like me or something? Oh my God. My boy did not see that coming or expect that in any way. That reply, he froze, fully blue screened. I mean, the bro actually wrote poems about why he likes her. This man, who had rehearsed a speech 900 times in front of me, a mirror, just stood there like he was saying, for his dentist. His brain went hyper, thinking how he should answer the question. And when he tried to let the words out, he started thinking, do I sound dumb if I say this? Does she think I'm weird? Maybe I should just leave. Basically, he wanted to impress her with his answer so bad his brain was trying to write the perfect reply. And in the process, he hijacked himself. Instead of answering her, he was just stuck, thinking about what her reaction would be. His brain's attention was out of control. It became hard for him to focus on what's important. That's literally what attentional control theory says. When you're anxious, your brain starts prioritizing self monitoring instead of the actual task. Your working memory gets jammed and then you freeze. That's what happened to Sam. A whole minute passed. She was still waiting, and Sam knew he'd struck out. So he gave up and just said, I'm sorry, my brain stopped working. I feel like an idiot. His face was red, and he was about to leave. But surprisingly, she stopped him and said, it's okay, with a smile. Maybe she thought it was flattering that he was speechless, or maybe she just liked to talk with idiots. But their conversation continued, and he didn't blank out anymore. They were laughing and chatting for a long time. Now, he still struck out, but that moment when he said, I feel like an idiot, that was a recovery. By saying it out loud, his brain reclaimed attentional control. Turns out the best way to keep talking after a blank out is to talk about the fact that you blanked out. It forces your brain to get its focus back on. But blanking while talking is just one kind of pain. Sometimes the disaster hits you before you even say your first sentence. And this happens because of the cognitive switch penalty. Like when Sam got invited to his big industry convention, he was hyped. He'd been looking forward to it for months. He memorized names, studied the companies, practiced his opening lines. And the moment he went to introduce himself, he fumbled harder than the FBI guarding Epstein tapes. He stuttered his name, then misquoted someone's slogan. He wasn't nervous, he wanted this. But all the prep Sam did kind of backfired, like every career plan I've made. In his head, he had already played the whole convention like a movie trailer. He'd imagined bonding with these people, exchanging ideas, closing deals. In his head, he was 5 conversations deep before even saying hi. And that's the cognitive switch penalty in action. When the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that does strategic thinking, spends too long rehearsing imaginary scenarios, your thinking brain gets stuck in planning mode and doesn't switch into talking mode. Now, the reason this becomes an issue is because that same prefrontal cortex is also responsible for making the conversations, but it can't do both at once. And if you don't allow it to switch gears, you end up like Sam. He was in a rush, so when he opened his mouth, his thoughts and reality were on different timelines, and his words came out scrambled. But Sam hadn't given up. When the next convention rolled around, Sam did something weird. On the cab ride over, he started talking to himself out loud. Dude was full on having a fake conversation with imaginary people. The cab driver definitely thought Sam was nuts, but Sam didn't give a shit. He just kept going. And at first, it was a mess. He said awkward things, he got stuck on words, But after a few rounds, something clicked. Suddenly, his brain stopped lagging. So when he finally stepped into the venue, he nailed his conversation with an intro, natural flow, and jokes that actually landed. Because by talking out loud, Sam forced his brain to switch from strategic thinking to the conversation mode. He let his brain warm up with low stakes practice, which is talking to himself in the car, so it doesn't crash during high stakes reality, which is talking to the others in the convention. So it turns out your first real conversation shouldn't be your brain's first one of the day. You have to let it fumble early. So when it counts, you'll already be in sync with reality. But here's the thing, fumbling doesn't only hit when you're under pressure. Sometimes it sneaks in on you when you least expect it, even in chill, laid back situations. And most of the time, it all comes down to something called social desensitization. Take my friend Cheeks, for example. Yeah, that's what we call him. And trust me, he earned that name. Don't ask me how. So, my boy Cheeks landed a software engineering job. And from day one, he became the golden boy. He was always hitting deadlines, he helped his teammates out, and basically within no time, he became the MVP of the team due to his laser sharp and focused. He never wasted a single second. He wasn't part of the tea break banter with his team, and he never hung out with them on the weekends. My bro was hustling. He was only focused on his work, and it paid off. Big time. Cheese got promoted to team lead in record time. And here I am, writing a YouTube script. Anyway, to celebrate, Cheeks took his team out to this nice restaurant, drinks were flowing, and food's ordered. Everyone was vibing. Except Cheeks, though. He felt out of place because people were trying to talk to him, joke with him, connect with him, but his brain was just buffering. Almost like his body showed up, but his soul hadn't entered the chat. When Cheeks tried to speak, he was drawing blanks. All he could think of was, what do I even say? Do I ask about the project status? Should I compliment their code? Cheeks was fighting for his life, like he was on Squid Game, but it was just small talk. Even when someone casually asked him, what do you do outside of work? He stuttered. And it's not like he was nervous or anything, his brain was just still at work. That's what happens when you get socially desensitized, with too much isolation and too much of a grinding routine. Suddenly, you just stop registering the little things, like a smile from a stranger, a casual joke, or even a quick wave of hand. Your brain stops picking them and processing them, because for such a long time you didn't need them when you were grinding. That's what happened to my cheeks, my friend cheeks. It reached a point that even with his closest friends, including me, I think, all his brain would focus on was deadlines, metrics, targets. So naturally, that's all he could talk about. That dinner with his teammates actually helped him. It slapped him harder than his immigrant mom when she woke his ass up after seeing his marks in math in grade 10. He realized how much he sucked at socializing and entered his training arc. And it wasn't that hard. Every day he did what I like to call social push ups, something that would help him with social conversations. He complimented a stranger every day. He started asking random questions to his barista. When they failed, he caught someone in an elevator because there's nothing better than practicing small talk in a locked metal box where your target can't escape. At first, he was awkward, painfully cringy, due to it being so awkward at times. But slowly, things started changing. He stopped freezing up when someone talked about the weather, started holding his own in lunch table conversations, because with every little interaction, his brain was slowly tuning back in. The same way your muscles grow with reps at the gym. Your brain literally rewires itself when you do social reps, thanks to something called neuroplasticity, which is your brain's way of training your nerves by doing something again and again. These little interactions rebuild the brain's sensitivity to vibe, tone, flow, all the subtle stuff that social desensitization dulls. So, like physical muscle memory, his mind began to relearn the micro cues to make his brain sensitive to social cues. Again, these small invisible signals make socializing feel natural again. Next is a field framework. Sometimes the problem isn't just freezing or fumbling. Sometimes your brain just goes empty. That blankness usually comes from something called contextual retrieval failure, where your brain goes, "What kind of info do you need from me again?" That's exactly what happened to Cheeks at a party. Sam introduced him to a new friend, then dipped out to take a call. And then the next second, Cheeks and the new guy were just standing there staring at each other like NPCs in GTA. Cheeks wanted to say something, but he couldn't think of anything. All he knew was the other guy's name and nothing else. It wasn't really about confidence, it was about context. He didn't know the guy well enough to crack a casual joke, and he didn't feel right about making some formal small talk. They were stuck in a social gray zone. They weren't friends, but it didn't feel right to act like strangers because both of them are familiar with Sam. So Cheek's brain kept spinning, trying to figure out what to say. And that is contextual retrieval failure. When the brain can't pull the right memory because it doesn't know what context you're in. It's like writer's block. You know you have to write a lot, but you don't know how to start or what to write. Your memory system's sitting there like, I've got jokes, facts, opinions, but which one do you want? Now, you've probably heard of something called the Ford method, which is that you can always start a conversation around these four things: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. But I think the field method is like Ford's cooler cousin. Same idea, just more flexible, with one guaranteed upgrade. Instead of robotic questions, you go for, you close with Sam or do you tolerate him like I do? That hoodie's from Chainsaw Man, right? This place smells like if a wet sock and dog breath had a baby. You more of a night owl or an early grinder? Ever think of quitting and opening a restaurant? Each one gives your brain a contextual handle, a little nudge about what kind of memory or thought to pull from. It's like handing your brain a folder labeled talk about their hobbies. And if one doesn't click, cool, you've got four more to lean on. And if everything else fails, you can't go wrong with the environment. You don't need to know the person to talk about what's right in front of you. And that's exactly what Cheeks did. He looked around and went, man, who made this playlist? And bam, the other guy smirked a bit. Why are they playing rave songs when we're trying to dance right now? By the time Sam got back, they were already arguing about the top 5 rappers of all time and decoding lyrics that they were studying for a test. When your brain blanks, you don't need the perfect thing to say. You just need a contextual push to unlock the right memory. That's what Field, the framework, does. It hands your brain the right label and lets it do the rest. But if the conversation still feels empty, if you're tired of the feeling of being in a room full of people and still feeling alone, then watch this.